Good evening. I'm here to introduce Bobby O'Donnell, who ran the 2013 Boston Marathon and gathered the courage to run in 2014. I was asked to introduce Bobby because I too was there in 2013 when the bomb went off. I was only several feet from the bomb, and in a split second, our world changed. I was on the ground with glass shattered in front of me. Debris from the bomb was flying through the air, and bones were sticking out of my knee. After a tourniquet was put on my leg, I was rushed to the hospital and in surgery for 5.5 hours. I remained at Boston Hospital and Rehab Center for 46 days. During those 46 days, I had to learn to let people be near me. My husband visited me, and I had to learn to let him hug me. I was afraid, and I was guarded. I am painting this picture only to show you the fear Bobby and I had to face. Many people came to our aid. Bobby's dad. People who no longer are strangers to us. An Army vet who was injured in the Afghanistan war wrote me a letter, and he said, "The nightmares will go away, although they may come back. Just remember, you are not alone. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Experiences like these can ruin lives, or they can be a catalyst for change and for growth. We decide, Bobby, we decide which we take." Bobby is a great example of overcoming fear. So please let me introduce Bobby O'Donnell, our guest speaker tonight.
Can we just have one more round of applause for the incredible courage that was shown? You know, this is my first time out to Valparaiso, and on the plane ride from Boston yesterday, I saw this ad for the Avengers. And then in the airport, I saw one for Spider-Man, and then another one for Iron Man. I was seeing superheroes everywhere. You know, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I'm starting to realize that we're a country obsessed with superheroes. Think about it. Think of all the movies that are coming out, the toys, everything in the airport and in the plane. They're everywhere. But why? Why do we love superheroes so much? Is it the superpowers? They have superhuman strength and speed, mind control, they can fly. They can do the things that no one else can. We love superheroes so much that we dress up like them when we're kids. And when we're adults, well, I guess not much changes. But seriously, what is it that makes our culture so amazed by superheroes? Superpowers are one thing, but I think it's the suit. What superheroes wear makes them who they are. It gives them an identity and a prestigious feel. I know I wanted to be a superhero when I was a kid. I wanted to make the world a better place. I wanted to look cool while I did it. I realized at a young age I didn't have superpowers. But when I was 17, I found something that was like a superhero suit to me. And I wanted it more than anything. This is a Boston Marathon jacket. It's something that's earned, not purchased. Little did I know, my desire for this jacket would completely change my life and lead me down a long road that would bring me to this stage tonight. You see, when I was 17, I took my father into Boston in April for his birthday. And as we were walking around the city, we saw all these people wearing this nice-looking Adidas windbreaker with 26.2 on the collar. And at 17 years old, that was just a cool jacket and I wanted it. We later found out that those jackets were from that year's Boston Marathon. And at that point in my life, I hadn't started running yet, so a 26.2-mile race seemed simply impossible. But I couldn't get the idea of it out of my mind. I signed up for my first road race that next night, and I had my heart set on making it to Boston one day. Finally, 2 years later, I was signed up for the 117th running of the Boston Marathon. Ready to don my superhero armor, to feel that feeling that superheroes have when they put their suit on. But I'm going to challenge this belief that we're obsessed with superheroes because of the superpowers or the suit they wear. And that argument is based on one word: promise. A statement telling someone that you will definitely do something or something will definitely happen in the future. Merriam-Webster Dictionary. I believe that we like superheroes because of their ability to keep a promise. That we can depend on them in a time of need and when we need them the most. As humans, we rely on promises that people make to us, but sometimes we aren't so great about the promises that we make to others. I'm not a superhero, but this is the story of my promise. On April 15th, 2013, I woke up knowing it would be a day I would never forget. Unfortunately, it became a day that America will never forget. This is fear. This is what thousands of people, including my family, witnessed April 15th, 2013 in the streets of Boston. This is the infamous marathon bombing.
At the office in New York, we're interrupting your program because there have been 2 explosions today at the Boston Marathon. 2 explosions near the finish.
There's been an explosion at the Boston Marathon, I am told. One of our producers, Matt Frucci, is there on the ground talking to us by phone. What can you tell us, Matt?
Hi, it was about 15, 20 minutes ago near the finish line.
I was 0.6 miles from that finish line when the bombs went off. My family was waiting for me at that finish line. I come from a very small, safe town, and I never had to fear much growing up. But I knew what fear was when I thought my whole family had been killed. You see, the police had blocked off the race, and the runners where I were still weren't quite sure what had happened. The police stated that an incident had occurred and that the race was now over. And as the spectators began to make their way back to where I was, they were running. And amid the chaos and confusion that was ever increasing, I was still trying to grasp what was going on. At this point, I had been running for about 4 hours. I was cold, tired, wondering why the race, the day that I had worked so hard for, was suddenly over. I stopped a woman and I asked her if she could tell me what was happening. And she looked up at me with terror in her eyes, and she told me that 2 bombs had exploded at the finish line, blowing up the grandstands. My family was sitting in the grandstands. This is my family, and in an instant, I thought I had lost them. We later found out that that spectator was misinformed and the bombs had actually exploded across the street from the grandstands. And I'm happy to say that my family was able to escape physically unscathed. When I was finally reunited with them, I hugged them, we cried, I held them tight. But that feeling of fear that I felt did not go away. Even when I knew that my family was safe, that fear stayed with me and continued to haunt me for the next year. In the days following, people came up to me and asked, "Are you going to return to run the marathon next year? Are you going to finish the race?" And my immediate answer was yes, of course. How could I not? After what had happened in 2013, I had reason now more than ever to go back to the start line next year. The Boston Marathon was my dream, and it was stolen from me. It was my city, my race, and I wanted it back. So I began to train again, but by the time April rolled around, that fear built back up in my mind. I feared that it would happen again, that I would put my family in danger, and there'd be nothing I could do about it. And not many people know, but the week leading up to the marathon that year, I had a hard time being okay to come back to run Boston. You see, on April 15th, 2013, those terrorists did not just take away my dream. They took away the feeling of safety from me, from everyone. I'm an average person. I'm not a superhero. Sometimes when people are faced with these events of adversity, they're able to right away stand up and face it. I wasn't one of those people that day, and I wasn't brave. But I did not let fear stop me. And on April 21st, 2014, my dad's birthday, I re-entered the Boston Marathon and finished my race. This was a really special moment for me. And I know what you're thinking. All of this for some silly jacket? But what you don't know is how the meaning of this race has changed for me over the last few years. I still wanted the jacket. I wanted to feel the prestige and the honor of wearing the jacket from such a highly regarded event. But the jacket doesn't feel the same as I thought it would as a 17-year-old boy. I don't care about how it looks on me, the color it is, or how much it costs. I care about what it represents. And this jacket to me is a symbol of not letting fear win. It's getting knocked down and struggling before reaching a goal. It's being so close to your dream that you can taste it, and having it ripped from your fingertips by an act of terrorism. This jacket reminds me of all those who were injured and killed that day in Boston. And this jacket is the incredible support of my family over the last few years, and the literal blood, sweat, and tears in a long journey against fear. But the jacket isn't why I came back in 2014 to finish the marathon. I couldn't have come back if it was just about a jacket. This was about a goal much larger than myself. For those of you who don't know, the Boston Marathon is one of the most difficult races in the world to get into. And there's two ways to do it. One way is to be extremely fast and run a qualifying time. And unfortunately, I wasn't gifted with superhuman speed either. But the other way is to raise money for one of the many charitable organizations associated with the race. Each year, millions of dollars are raised for these various organizations through the Boston Marathon. And after what had happened in 2013, I felt that I had a responsibility, that there was personally more that I needed to do. This led me down an incredible road to Children's Hospital. And what started out as just a way to enter a race soon became a passion of helping these children. I spent some time volunteering at Children's Hospital, and what I saw was both heartbreaking and inspiring. And what I found out is that it gave running a new meaning. I decided that I was going to run the Boston Marathon to raise money for Children's Hospital. And training wasn't lonely anymore because I knew that this hard work was going to benefit a child in need. It became a lot easier to start my long runs in a cold New England winter when I knew that what I was doing could help make a difference. And over time, I developed a passion for helping these kids through running. I made a promise that for the donations to Children's Hospital from my friends and family, that I would finish the Boston Marathon. And I intended to keep that promise. These children inspired me to keep running every step of the way. They're the reason why I have this passion to run. They move me to move forward. Because the race that they're in is harder than one that I could ever start. Why did I come back to finish the marathon? Because I made a promise. A promise to myself, my friends, my family, and all those children that I would finish the Boston Marathon. Unfortunately, fear can sometimes get in the way of things you love, or even just the tasks of everyday life. This is a picture that I took my first time back in Boston after the marathon bombing. It's a memorial of shoes that was created shortly after April 15th. Runners from around the world, including myself, laced their shoes around these rails, and it was a message. It was a statement to the world that we will not be defeated. We will not let those who hate and commit acts of evil in this world stop us from doing things we love. It's very easy to say no to things when you're scared. No one would have blamed me for not wanting to return to finish the marathon that year. Often we hear, don't let someone tell you what you can't do, but not often enough do we say, I won't let my fear tell me what I can't do. Don't be afraid to set high goals and dream big, because those are the people that make a difference. Don't let a fear of needles stop you from donating blood, because someone up there needs you. And don't stop yourself from telling someone that you love them, because life's too short. Don't let your fear stop you, because you'll regret it. I returned to the starting line of the Boston Marathon in 2014 with motivation, passion, and the attitude to overcome my fear. I finished what I set out to do because I said I would. I did not let fear win. I did not let fear stop me from doing what I love. And I hope that you never do either. But there's always something that sparks you or inspires you to overcome your fear, right? Something that pushes you outside your comfort zone and gives you that extra step. For me, that came 2 months before the Boston Marathon in the form of a TED Talk titled Because I Said I Would. This random guy, Alex Sheen, was walking around stage on YouTube talking about the importance of keeping a promise. He reminded me of the promise that I had made to myself, my friends, my family, and all those kids that I would finish the Boston Marathon. And I don't know if I would have finished if I hadn't been reminded of that promise. Because I Said I Would is a social movement, nonprofit organization dedicated to the betterment of humanity through promises made and kept. Many of you know founder Alex Sheen from when he spoke here last year. Alex started this organization after the passing of his father from small cell lung cancer. He then introduced the Promise Card, a very simple concept that would go viral and reach people all around the world, including myself. And one of the most incredible things is the people that share their stories back to me because I said it. Real life examples of how writing a promise down changes a person's life and affects all those around them. Maybe it's someone whose sister has Down syndrome, and they make the commitment to care for them even when their parents no longer can. Or how about someone who does overcome their fear of needles to donate blood? Because they know that what they're doing can save someone's life. And the promises can be lighthearted too, like what this guy promises his wife. That'll be you one day. The ones that come in from kids are always good for a laugh, like this young boy who promises to never get in jail. But it's nice to see kids at such a young age learning the importance of a promise. How about someone who's struggling with addiction? And these cards are a way for them to fight that grueling battle against it. This man posted pictures of promise cards with numbers on them, and he would do this every month for how many months he had been clean. Soldiers use these cards to show the oath that they take to protect and defend our country and keep their brothers and sisters safe on the battlefield. Schools around the world have created promise walls for their students to show their commitment as a community and how the promises that they make affect those around them. Many people write these promises on a card, but I chose to write it somewhere else. The stories are endless, but in all these incredible examples of promise and commitment, there are two people who stick in my mind. A little over a year ago, I had the opportunity to be a main stage speaker at the National Because I Said I Would conference. After my talk, this woman approached me. She thanked me for speaking, but didn't say too much else after. A few days later, I received a message on Facebook from that same woman because she wanted to tell me the story of what had happened to her son, Matt.
And it was just so shocking. We had just sent Matt off to camp for 12 days to get these service hours, and he was at a camp that was near our home, but they took a trip this particular day to Lake Michigan to go swimming, and it was a red flag, red current warning day, and yet they still went in the water. On July 27th, 2013, John and I were both at home, getting ready to go to a party that evening, and we received a phone call, and it was a phone call from the camp that our son was attending. And this was the phone call that no parent ever wants to receive. And we were told that there was a water accident with our son and to rush to the hospital. And so we were out of the house within 2 minutes. Our son was airlifted to another hospital where we gathered and with our family and a few close friends. And that evening, our son Matt, who was 15 years old, he was pronounced dead from drowning.
He had those warm, inviting eyes that just drew people to him. And because of his size, he was 6'4", 243. I just took him for his football physical the week before he passed. And he was a gentle giant. Matt was always our conscience. He was always my conscience. He'd go, "Dad, is that the way to talk about something?" I go, "Matt, you're absolutely right. That's it." You know, he says, "You always tell me, tell yourself, Dad." You know, this forever changed our lives. Our home used to be full of noise. Matt was our only son. He was a good person. He always put others first. He always watched out for somebody who needed a little help. That is what is energizing us to become involved. So that no other parent has to go through the devastation, the life-shattering event of having their child drowned needlessly.
I don't know what it's like to lose a child. I can't even begin to imagine how terrible that feeling is. Matt was John and Kathy's only child, the most important part of their life. And after that day, on July 27th, 2013, they lost him. The Cokers would have every reason in the world to keep to themselves and live the rest of their lives in sadness grieving over Matt. But they didn't. Drowning is the #1 cause of accidental death of children in the United States. But kids don't learn the importance of water safety in school. They talk about fire safety and stranger danger, but not the #1 cause of accidental death. Instead of shutting down, the Cokers promised to make a difference. They would start the Matthew Coker Foundation to raise awareness of water safety and speak on ways to prevent drowning. Along with the support of many friends and family, they would hold numerous fundraisers to raise money for scholarships for local children. They would travel around the state to speak to many schools and organizations on ways to prevent drowning. And the Matthew Coker Foundation aims to have water safety programs implemented in all schools around the state. Maybe your fear is that you can't do enough. The Cokers are mom and dad from a small town in Illinois. They're just two people, right? How are they going to stop an epidemic? But look at all they've done because they're not afraid to be the one person to make a difference. Think of all the lives that their efforts have already saved because they weren't afraid to go the extra mile. Founded because I said I would, Alex Sheen has a great quote that I think about often and I think that everyone can benefit from. One person can only do so much, but we do not use that as an excuse to do nothing. Everyone's here tonight because they care. I came from Boston because I care. The Boys and Girls Club needs you. These kids, the kids in this room, need you. It doesn't take much to make a difference. Whether it's a small donation or volunteering your time, your support is essential. There's some promise cards in front of you, and I want to ask you to deeply reflect on a promise or commitment that you've been thinking of or putting off. One person can only do so much, but we do not use that as an excuse to do nothing. Thank you.